While Overwatch is not exactly a MOBA where you can feed XP to the enemies and lose due to a level disadvantage, feeding is still a crucial problem in a lot of matches and often results in, well, obviously an unfavorable outcome for those doing it. Today we're going to talk about the different kinds of feeding. Knowing what one can do wrong might help you avoiding it, so let's get right into it. Feeding in Overwatch relates to giving the enemy's ultimate charge when you could have avoided it. Obviously, means of avoiding to do right that would be not getting hit, but there's more to it than meets the eye. A very common way of feeding is feeding into support ultimates, especially when fighting in chokes. Players will exchange shots in an attempt to charge their ultimates quickly. The problem becomes when this poke war, so to speak, never results in any picks. Supports in particular will take advantage of those situations and very quickly charge their ultimates. If you are on the defending side and the enemies engage into a poke war, you can bet your buckets that when they engage, they will be confident they have an ultimate advantage. What's crucial in those situations is being aware of the danger of support ultimates, whichever support that is, and knowing which DPS or tank heroes have done the most damage and are likely to have their ultimates as well. The best course of action is trying to get a quick pick on any of the opposing team's members and then focus solemnly for those targets that you suspect might have their ultimate. In an ideal world, the enemies will engage with the plan of using the ultimate and not realize that one of their teammates has been picked off just shortly before. That means it is easier for a team to deal with this ultimate. Beyond this very particular example of choke point poke war, there are heroes that have a tendency of feeding more into support ultimates than others. Those include Pharah, Junkrat, and Soldier 76. I've talked about Pharah and Junkrat in detail before, so if you want to see that video, it's going to be linked in the end card of this video. To give you a TLDR, a poorly played Pharah or Junkrat will use their kits solely to spam blindly into the enemies, causing a lot of splash damage without getting any picks. This, more than anything else, very quickly feeds into enemy support ultimates. That doesn't mean you can't avoid that, but it requires a certain level of awareness and skill with those heroes. Soldier 76 at this point in time is, for all intents and purposes, a worse McCree. He fulfills the same hit scan role, but doesn't have anywhere near as much reliable burst. What often happens is that if Soldier tries to kill an enemy from full HP, they will have a lot of time to get away due to the lack of burst. That again feeds into support ultimates. Obviously you can't stop the enemy supports from getting the ultimate charge entirely, but being decisive and taking a confident step in pressuring the enemies and getting picks on key heroes when it matters goes a long way in dictating the tide of the battle and try to force them to use the ultimates when they rather wouldn't. Next up, we're going to talk about a very classic way of feeding, and that's in regards to Zarya. This segment isn't gonna take long. Zarya has her shields. Shooting those shields causes her to get charged and do more damage. The more damage she does, the faster she gets her ultimate. What's important in dealing with Zarya is really to just focus her. In a team fight, she should be #1 priority. Her shields can only take so much damage and she herself doesn't have that much HP. If everyone focuses her, you can easily burn her shields down and kill her in a matter of seconds. That is important because the Graviton Surge is an extremely powerful ultimate that takes a long time to charge. By making sure she dies whenever she gets anywhere near high damage, you make sure she can't build her ultimate effectively. It is not necessarily a matter of not feeding her damage, but making sure that you take her out of the fight entirely. Even that means that you have to break her shield and give her 50% on her damage charge. Do keep in mind that Zarya isn't just dangerous as a high charge DPS monster, she can also do a lot of work in keeping her teammates alive, which is another reason why she should be your #1 priority. The next hero I'd like to talk about in particular is Roadhog. Roadhog is probably the worst offender of feeding ultimate charge to the enemies that I can think of. He is massive and easy to hit, he has a lot of HP, and headshotting him is pretty easy as well. Roadhog is all about landing your hooks and getting those crucial picks. You won't be able to avoid feeding ultimate charge unless your team fights are on spot. Bottom line is that a Roadhog that doesn't land his hooks and doesn't get picks isn't only not helpful for your team, he also feeds a massive amount of ultimate charge to the enemies. Now Reinhard. Reinhard is absolutely perfect if you want to avoid feeding. Shooting his shield doesn't get you any ultimate charge, so as long as your team stands behind him and you win the poke war, you should be golden. Lastly, I'd like to discuss something you might have seen in pro play before and maybe even on ladder. Let me paint the picture for you. You're on Numbani attack trying to get point A. On some point in the fight, you lost a tank, a support, you and the other DPS are both low in health, and the enemies are all still well and healthy. Now your team has one of two choices that still make sense once they know that they lost a team fight. The first sensible thing to do is trying to disengage if you think you still have the chance. Especially if they lose your speed boost, you might be able to save what's left and avoid the rest of your team getting slaughtered. The other thing is jumping off the map if you have any more of your teammates die. There are two reasons you see people jumping off the map like this. First off, the team needs to regroup as fast as possible. By dying much later than your teammates, you end up getting a highly staggered spawn, which gives the defending team a lot of time to set up again until you can engage once more and you lose a lot of time on the clock. The other very crucial reason is that you dying to the enemy fire feeds a good bit of ultimate charge, and you want to avoid that at all costs. Especially if during the team fight you invested more ultimates than the enemies, you want to avoid getting into a situation pattern where they can constantly outplay you with superior ult economy. So players choose to jump off the map to regroup quickly and not take any more enemy fire, which gives them very crucial ultimate charge. So let's summarize what we've been talking about today. If you engage into a poke war, you need to make sure that you keep track of enemy ultimates. If they engage, they are very likely to be confident they have an ultimate advantage, so try to get the advantage by getting a quick pick and then focus the enemies you suspect might have the ultimate. Ideally, you want to try to force them to use the ultimates when they rather wouldn't. Junkrat, Pharah, and Soldier 76 all have tendencies of feeding into enemy support ultimates if they are not played properly. If you play any of those heroes, do make sure that you know how to play them and focus your fire on the right targets at the right time. Don't worry about feeding damage charge to Zarya, worry more about her not getting any value out of this charge. If you focus her down whenever she tries to engage and get charge, you can make sure that she never manages to build up her ultimate anywhere nearly as quickly as she'd like to. If you play Roadhog, do make sure that you land your hooks and you get your picks on a regular basis. Roadhog is an easy target that feeds into enemy ultimates more than anyone else, so if they keep trying to deny your hooks, you might better be off playing something else. Reinhard is your man if you want to avoid feeding ultimate charge. Do make sure you stand behind rather than in front of the shield, of course. And lastly, know when a teamfight is lost. Communicate and make sure you can either disengage quickly or end it quickly yourself so you can regroup. Getting staggered and feeding ultimate charge by dying to the enemies is probably the worst thing that can happen. Anyway, this is me done for the day. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Feel free to drop me a like when you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you guys next time. I didn't get him. I'm so bad. I'm such a bad DPS. Did you know that Anna does a surprising amount of damage?